and welcome to the Appeals Hearing Board. It is January 6th, 2023. Proceed.
So
I'm sorry to interrupt. We're not hearing whatever is being, I'm not hearing whatever is being said right now.
I'm sorry, my microphone was not on. I just welcomed everyone to the Appeals Hearing Board, and today's date is January 5th, 2023.
Okay, well, we will proceed with this and our, shall I call for roll call for the members?
Sure.
Kent Glenzer is here online
Present, yes.
and Stephen Milich,
Present.
all the way from Buffalo. I bet we're a little warmer than you are. Okay, first, any general public comments?
Chair, if we could have the clerk give a statement on how the public can participate in the meeting today before we go to that.
Okay, so the city of Monterey is committed to safe attendance of its public meetings. Masks are required for all who attend in person, regardless of vaccination status, except for those who are younger than 2 years old or have a medical condition that prevents them from wearing a mask. We ask that the attendees in the council chambers keep their phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference and feedback with the hybrid meeting. If you're appearing via Zoom, the city of Monterey seeks to continue to offer virtual methods for public participation in the meetings. If you aren't joining us in person here in the council chambers, there are 2 ways to virtually participate in this meeting. You may join the meeting directly on Zoom.gov using the Zoom app on your computer or mobile device, and you can also call in to the Zoom meeting. To join the meeting on Zoom on your computer, smartphone, or telephone, use the link or phone number on the agenda at isearch.org. To call in to the Zoom meeting, dial toll-free 833-568-8864, then enter the meeting ID, which is 161-036-6076. And if prompted to enter a participant ID, press pound. Detailed instructions on using Zoom are available at monterey.org/public meetings. To make a public comment using the Zoom app, you can virtually raise your hand by pressing raise your hand button on the bottom of the screen. If you dial in by phone, raise your hand by dialing *9, then unmute yourself when called upon by dialing *6. You must do both. Public commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak. I will call on each public speaker in order of their hands raised. Please stay within the 3-minute time limit that has been established for today's meeting, which will show using a countdown timer on the screen. If you are connected live on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. Today's public meeting is also streaming live on the city's YouTube account, which is accessible at youtube.com/City of Monterey with an approximate 10-second delay. On Comcast channel 25, up to a 90-minute delay. As always, we look forward to receiving your public comments. Thank you.
Okay, Chair. Now, if you want to proceed with general public comment.
Okay. Any public comment to receive?
At this time, we don't have anyone online and does not look like there's anyone in the chambers either. Thank you.
Okay. We are here to consider John Banks, property owner of 443 Watson Street, and for failure to comply with a compliance order issued November 18th, 2022 for violations of Monterey City Code Section 14-2.2b. They have not appeared. So what's the next step?
Well, it's 11:08, Chair. I suggest, given the weather, we maybe wait another 3 minutes, 5 minutes,
Okay.
whatever the chair's pleasure is. We can just go into a brief recess and then return if they do not either way, we'll return after 5 minutes, should we say, or?
5 minutes is fine.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
Great,
Okay.
thanks.
On a 5-minute break.
Proceed, and I think we want to go ahead with the summary by Ted Terrassis, our
Yes, sir.
sustainability
Yeah.
manager.
If I may, Chair, I just want to state for the record that it appears the appellant has not shown up at this time. If they continue to fail to appear under Monterey City Code Section 1-10.5, that would constitute a failure to exhaust their administrative remedies. For the record, I do recommend staff proceeding with their presentation, and the board can consider adoption of the administrative order following that time.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir, and our city attorney's office. I just have a quick presentation for a few items to kind of clarify the issue here. Oops, 1 second. Where did it go? Where'd it go? This one here. Okay, there it goes. Share screen. Okay, here we go. I just had it up. There we go. Okay. So hopefully, let's see, everybody.
Can you all see that presentation?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just very quickly, really the core of the issue here is what began as a state law known as SB 1383, which is relating directly to short-lived climate pollutants, specifically methane. And this is really about reducing greenhouse gas impacts of methane, really related to the breakdown of organic materials as solid waste. So there was a bevy of requirements that came along with SB 1383 that require local jurisdictions and haulers to put in place programs and collection systems so that we can recover this organic material and process it in a way that minimizes its greenhouse gas impact. So this new law required the organics collection at residential and commercial sites, whereas before that wasn't a specific requirement, and that local jurisdictions are responsible for implementing programs, adopting codes, and completing any enforcement necessary to ensure compliance with the code. So this state law actually required that we adopted a specific city code that addressed these specific requirements. So that addition to Chapter 14 was actually a requirement of the state law. And the city is overseen by the state, in this case by Cal Recycle, which is one of the member agencies of the California Environmental Protection Agency. So every year we do report to Cal Recycle and demonstrate our compliance with state law, and in this regard, SB 1383. So basically what that means for the city is that we do verify service levels with our franchise waste hauler, in this case, Monterey City Disposal Service. So we verify that the properties within the city limits are in compliance with the city code and with the state law with regards to the types of service or the amount of service they have, to make sure it's adequate to contain all the waste they're generating, but also to make sure in this case that they are able to divert organics separately from garbage and separately from recyclables, and either combined with yard waste or separately in its own bin, but separate from garbage and recyclables. So what the city does in that respect is send out notices to all impacted properties and property owners so that they're aware of the requirements, letting them know what they'll need to do to contact us with any questions, to offer our assistance and compliance. If we have to do any site visits or they need any signage, they have any questions, we like to send that information out so that they're aware of the requirement and they have the ability to ask any questions in order to get in compliance. If we continue to check service levels through Monterey City Disposal's database, and if they continue to not be in compliance, we can send out follow-up notices, or we can send citations or other enforcement actions depending on how far it goes. Usually they can make corrections if they realize that if the city continues to contact them and for non-compliance. And in addition to this contact and follow-up with enforcement, the city is required to maintain a database and report this information to the state of California. So this is an incredibly critical piece where the city is also under requirements where if we are not complying with these state laws, that it can mean enforcement action against the city as well. So those can be quite significant penalties and an enforcement process if we get there. And we are doing everything in our power to make sure that we're complying with state law as well. So, and to clarify this, wanted to send a specific history for 443 Watson. there's been a pretty long history of contact, reaching out with notices, and then citations as well, going back to September of 2021. So letting them know of the requirements and following up and letting them know again. And when there was no action taken, when we check those databases with our franchise hauler and realize that they have not added the service or otherwise complied with the requirements, that we can follow up with citations. Ideally, the citation is there to kind of, if nothing else, maybe get people's attention and make them respond, hopefully in a much reduced way, but where they realize the city is going to follow up and take this seriously. But there was a series of 3 citations, as you can see there, and usually at that point is an indication to us that the property owner either is unwilling or unable to comply. And in this case, there was very minimal contact, not directly with the property owner, but our staff here at the city did contact someone that was acting as a property manager, or was a tenant at this property that was kind of overseeing some assistance there.
Just a question.
Yeah, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Is the property occupied by a tenant?
Yes, it's a multi-family site where there's
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Yes, sir. So from there, at the time, they did indicate that they would follow up and add the service through Monterey City Disposal Service, but that did not happen, and there was no further contact with either the property owner or anyone representing the property owner after that time. There's also an indication that their garbage service was also suspended for lack of payment, and we do have to follow up with that as well, because that's another non-compliance with city code, where every parcel does have to have garbage service, especially for health and safety concerns through the city. And finally, the compliance order that was issued in November, which led us to this administrative hearing today. So I just wanted to give kind of a quick overview there of where we were and some of the requirements, and then leave it to the board for any questions or comments you may have.
Okay, I have a couple questions. First, it appears there's 2 separate houses on this property.
There may, if there are more than one unit, I know there are building, I know it's treated as a multi-family
Yep.
property. So ultimately, once you go over 5 units on a property, it's considered a business or a multi-family property that complies with those requirements of the city code or state law. So if it's being, it falls into that category. It kind of doesn't necessarily depend on how many freestanding buildings, but how many total units are on the property for rental or for living.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then you find out about this through the Monterey garbage people. They report to you if they don't see this happening.
Well, we also have access to their system. So what we can do, for example, is group properties by how much service they have, and once they go over a threshold service level, that's an indication that they also trigger the requirements of the city code and the state law. So that's usually one indicator of that they will need to have organic service. There's also the requirements of, we've broken it into how many parcels in the city have more than 5 or greater units for apartments that trigger them as a multifamily site, where they will have to offer organics diversion service to their tenants, and we can contact folks that way as well. So we've been reporting to the state long before these requirements came out. We've had to report to the state for recycling and other issues. So we've kind of had these our parcels in the city broken down by those service levels, and then from there we can check if they have garbage recycling or organic service added to their accounts, and when they don't, we can contact them.
Okay. And thank you for that summary. This is the first time this board has heard this, so that helped to know the background and what we're trying to effectively do. And it's the state law, so we're just in between the tenant there and the state law. But obviously, it's a lot easier for the local city to enforce this and understand it than
Right.
at the state level. Good. Are there any questions of our?
I've got a couple of I think easy questions. The first question is, in your presentation, I think I heard you say that there has been no confirmed face-to-face or even mail contact with the actual owner, that the only contact is with some kind of a representative at the, and I know from looking at the dossier that things were mailed to the official home of record of the owner. And my question is, do we have any sense whatsoever that this person's actually ever received concretely this stuff?
Well, I
Even
bel-
though I'm not questioning the city's procedures. I'm asking a more, I guess, maybe hypothetical question.
Right, no, exactly. And I believe the person, the tenant that was acting as a property manager, so to speak, was directed to contact us by the property owner. At least that was the information that they gave our staff when they reached out to us. And that was through one contact that was made. I believe that was the only contact we've made with anyone representing any of these properties, and all the time we've reached out to them. But they informed us that they were directed by the property owner to sort of reach out and address this. And when they indicated that it was their intent to address it, we felt that at the time that it was, we had solved the issue, and then it went on being unresolved. And then there was no further response of any kind, either written or verbally, after that point.
All right, thanks. And then the other question I have about, again, in the dossier, the pre-read, the city is making recommendations about, let's call them fines. That may be the wrong official word, but levies that for various periods and so on and so forth, administrative costs and so on and so forth. My only question on it is, are these regular and standardly applied in these situations? Does the city have something that says, well, it's $10 a day or it's $50 a day when this happens, or is this really just a unique one-by-one sort of determination?
Board Member Glenzer, I think I'll answer that because I've probably advised the board more on these type of orders than the sustainability office. So generally, there is some leeway in terms of the amount of a fine or penalty that staff can recommend and the board can impose. It cannot go above a certain threshold per day. And in fact, this is on the very low end in terms of the $10 per day. And then for I believe that's since December 2nd, when they failed to come into compliance until today, that staff requested, and then staff is requesting $50 a day going forward until compliance is achieved. That is definitely in line with prior penalties that have been imposed by the board. We haven't had a similar garbage or trash related case, but when there have been building code violations that have been subject to administrative orders, fines have generally, or penalties per day have generally ranged between $50 to $100, I would say.
Thanks. Thank you. I actually do have one last question. It's a procedural one. Sorry for hogging some airtime here. But the fact that we have an appeals board hearing on this de facto means that the owner requested this meeting. I want to make sure that I'm correct about that.
In the case of administrative orders, that's not correct.
Okay.
When staff issues a compliance order, if full compliance is not achieved by the date set in the compliance order, then the procedure in the city code is for staff to request the appeals hearing board clerk to set that matter for hearing, so that then this board can hear the matter
I see.
And impose penalties if it wishes.
I see. Thank you. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. I wasn't aware of that procedure, so thank you.
And just going back to your first question, Board Member Glenzer, I thought it'd be helpful if the clerk could let the board know regarding the mailing for the notice of hearing. I know the city code requires it go to the address on file with the county assessor. So if the clerk can confirm that was done and then that it was not returned as undeliverable.
That's correct. For number 443 Watson Street, it was sent to the address provided, which was the assessor's address and it did not get returned with a undeliverable address.
Okay, thank you, clerk.
I seem to think the amount of the fee being requested by staff is in a sufficient amount to try and get the mule's attention as opposed to being penal. Would that be correct?
Yeah, in terms of our notices, I mean, for one, the majority of it is from recovering staff time. And the other part of the amount of days that have gone by is sort of an indication that we're kind of escalating it from a citation level, but not necessarily going to the maximum or the full levels it could be, giving the property owner another chance to hopefully resolve it before the fees or penalties become more excessive.
So the amount of the fees that you're requesting are to enforce compliance as opposed to being penal.
Right, it's basically, right.
Thank you, that's good.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and one other clarification I wanted to make, our Mallory Pankratz, our sustainability assistant, just mentioned to me that she did speak with the property owner in November of 2021 after the final organics notice, and it was a short conversation to let us know that he said he would take care of it at the time. But again, that was a very quick and uneventful, unfortunately, resolution to that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, are there other questions by our board members? So give us the
Well,
next step.
Sure. And prior to deliberations, I just wanted to make one comment that I should have stated at the beginning of the record, this hearing. I'm Assistant City Attorney Karen Salama. My role here today is advising the Appeals Hearing Board. And I have not worked with staff on this matter at all. We have had an ethical wall in place, and I have not communicated with staff or anyone else in my office regarding this matter. So I just wanted to get that on the record. But the next step would be to go ahead and take public comment on this item. If anyone is either online or no one's in the room, but
At this time, there's no one here in the chambers. Oops. And there's no one waiting online.
okay. So in that case, the board can proceed to deliberation.
Okay. And this would be regarding this instance, but also can we impose the fines that have been suggested?
Yes, so in attachment 7 to this agenda item in the agenda packet, there's a proposed administrative order, and that order has findings that the organics collection was not started as required by the compliance date. And then it requests, you'll see in under the now therefore, so item 1 in the administrative order staff has requested is that the board would require them to get organics collection by January 20th. And then item 2 is administrative costs, which are the amount of the city time in kind of dealing with this matter in the amount of $1,597.07. And then the third item in the proposed order is for the penalties, which we discussed, which is the not retroactive, but penalties from the date of the compliance order until the date of the hearing, which is $10 per day requested, and then penalties going forward if compliance is not achieved at the rate of $50 per day. And then the remaining part of the order is sort of more legal general terms about enforcement and disputes and failure to comply with the order going forward. But those are the key parts of the requested administrative order.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And so that's a total of $1,937.07 for both of those.
For both the costs and the penalties
Yes.
accrued to date.
Right.
I trust your math better than
Okay.
my own.
Good. So, any discussion among us board members, pro or con, or other questions?
I don't have anything more to discuss about this personally.
Okay,
Me neither.
okay. And thank you. I really appreciate that background. I wasn't aware it was really a state level requirement, and we're just intermediary here. The people that actually collect it and see what's going on. So that's helpful for me. We seem ready to approve it. Is there one of you want to make a motion for approval of this, including the fines?
Yeah, I so move. I would move that we accept the city's recommendation about the fines and so on and so forth. Yes.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay. All in favor, I guess a roll call?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Elise, the
I'll go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay,
Okay, Vice Chair Milich,
Yes.
Board Member Glenzer,
Yes.
and Chair Hawkins.
yes.
Okay, the motion passes 3-0. Thank you.
Okay. We'll see where this goes from here.
yes.
I'm expecting to hear back.
Okay. Staff can report back.
Yeah,
Well, Chair, if you want to call the second item,
okay. And we had on the original agenda, one other similar. I'm looking for the right piece of paper here. For 492 Van Buren Street, and very similar to what we've just been through, now that we know all the background and information. And that got sent to the wrong address, so it is now rescheduled for,
well, yeah, the notice was sent to the wrong address, so staff is recommending that it be continued, and I believe the clerk has a recommended date.
That's correct. We're going with Thursday, January 26th at 1 p.m.
So moved.
Good.
Agreed.
Okay, we should do the motion to continue a roll call vote, clerk.
Okay, motion to continue. Board Member Glenzer,
Yes.
Vice Chair Milich,
Yes.
and Chair Hawkins.
yes,
Okay, the motion to continue passes 3-0.
okay.
I think we're just left with board member comments on the agenda.
Okay,
I actually only have one comment. I was surprised not to see the minutes from the last board meeting in this packet to approve them.
That's correct. We will have them at the next one, hopefully.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Thank
okay,
you.
good. And I will, again, I kind of said it, but appreciate the background information. That's something I hadn't heard or realized, and that's very helpful as we go forward. We've only had 2 of these after several years, so I think we hadn't heard that before. So thank you very much. Okay, are we through? I think we are.
Well, I have one thing I'd like to add. A New Year's resolution, if I may share with you. The year to be will set you free. Lose that weight and you'll look great. 'Tis a worthy New Year's resolution to dispose of adipose pollution. But since a box of C's is handy, first let's have another candy. And Happy New
Like
Year.
that resolution.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you all for showing up. We are adjourned at 11:37.
Okay, thank you very